5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live. Coming to you live. It's Lichtman Live. Say what's up to the people, Dad.
Welcome to our savvy, brilliant audience that wants something more than the usual partisan blather, that wants some hard-hitting analysis, historical perspective. And this is kind of a special show, Sam, right?
Right, because our new format starts next week. So if you didn't hear last week, we're moving to a video-based format. Each section of our show, it'll be basically the exact same thing, but it'll be posted as a video. We will also be live Thursday evenings for members.
A 30-minute special segment for members. And it's really, behooves you to become a member. It helps us, what is it, $5 a month?
Yeah.
Less than the cost of a milkshake, and much healthier than a milkshake.
Apparently people are saying there's an echo. I don't know why.
Don't ask me. Although you did say I'm getting into the 21st century.
Hold on, let me try to listen on my phone real quick.
Okay.
Just to hear what it sounds like.
Oh, I might not. I think I did turn off my Bluetooth.
You did?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
I can double check it, but I'm 90% sure.
There's a national blood shortage. Who's got donation ideas?
Oops.
We don't like echoes.
No. Sounds like auto-tune, they say? I didn't change anything from last week. I don't know what would have happened. Give me 1 second. Ads. I gotta watch ads to watch our own stream. Oops. 5, 4. Oh, I do hear that. 2.
I'm a brilliant audience that wants something more than the usual.
Our new format starts next week. Huh, I don't know why that's happening.
Should I double check, make sure I turn my Bluetooth off?
Yes.
I can't reach it.
Oh, okay, hold on 1 second. Let's see. Your Bluetooth seems to be off.
That's what I thought.
I'm gonna cancel out this game
Yeah.
you have on your phone.
Although I can't imagine why that does it, but who knows?
Who knows? Alright, I'm gonna try to I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm gonna try to unplug the mics.
What am I supposed to do with this?
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna try to unplug the mics and plug them back in again.
Good idea. Test, test, test.
Test, test, test.
Test, test, test.
Did that fix it or no, folks? It's working okay now? Yeah? Okay.
All right, we're on.
I guess that's all you gotta do sometimes is unplug it and replug it, right, Dad?
That's right. That's the ultimate.
Okay. Are you ready to get into our first topic?
Yes, and this is going to be something very different
Why?
because, how long has Trump been president? 7 months or so? And we have been hard-pressed to find anything
Oh, right. That's
that
what I
he's
said.
done that's any good for anyone but himself, his rich friends, and his political allies. And tonight is going to be an exception to that.
Right. All right, let's get into it.
All right. So what we have...
Wait. I have to do the intro.
Oh,
I don't know why you always forget that. It's
I
been the
always
same
forget
for
it.
like months now.
go.
Okay, go. Israel's cabinet has approved the first phase of a U.S. brokered ceasefire deal with Hamas, agreeing to pull back forces to predefined lines in Gaza and release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Hamas has agreed to free all remaining hostages as part of the initial phase. This marks a potential breakthrough after months and years of war in Gaza.
Indeed. And Trump deserves credit for, being the driving force in what at least is a preliminary agreement. Of course, Trump has hyped it way beyond what it actually represents, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But certainly, he gets credit, presuming that there's going to be a follow-through to this. But it does seem as though both Hamas and the Netanyahu government have agreed to a ceasefire, right, Sam?
Yes.
A hostage release.
Yes.
And a release of certain Palestinian prisoners held in Israel.
Yes.
This is a very important, very critical first step. This war in Gaza has been one of the great horrors of the 21st century. You know, according to Palestinian sources, 67,000, Sam, Palestinians were killed in this war. A lot of them women and children. Even if you don't believe that exact figure, independent observers agree many tens of thousands of Palestinians, including many women and children, have been killed. The blockade has resulted in a shortage of medicines, food, starvation, dehydration, disease. It's just been a humanitarian disaster. And it is obviously a very positive development, and Trump deserves credit for it, that it looks like, at least for now, the war is going to be stopped, and there's going to be an exchange of hostages and prisoners. These hostages have been held for 2 years under, of course, horrific conditions. Many of them have died. We don't know exactly how many are even left alive. There is a figure floating around somewhere around 20 living hostages to be released, but that remains to be seen. So a lot of credit, but, you know, Trump has bombastically claimed, you know, this is peace in the Middle East. Let's hope that's right, but we are a long way from that. There is a long history, is there not, Sam, in the Middle East of seeming agreements, seeming peace that fall apart.
Well, we thought we had a ceasefire back in January when the Biden administration was transferring to the Trump administration.
Exactly.
They seemed to come together, the Biden folks and the Trump folks, and they came up with a ceasefire deal, and that sort of just seemed to vanish into thin air. I still don't get exactly what happened there, but yeah, hopefully this one sticks.
Let's hope it sticks. But as you say, that ceasefire was based on a framework that the Biden administration had developed in May of 2024. And as you point out, both the outgoing Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration did cooperate on what seemed like a ceasefire arrangement that neither side was ready to honor. And, you know, I'm not blaming anyone except Hamas and Netanyahu for this, but it is beyond tragic that it took the horror of 2 years of war before we finally got a ceasefire arrangement. You know, years ago, we saw these kinds of frameworks developed, and we could have had an agreement without all the killing and the human tragedies that were involved here. Nonetheless, better late than never. Now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, at this point, the Israeli parliament has only agreed to this phase one.
That is my understanding as well, yes.
Yes. And the really critical phases are yet to come and are uncertain at this point. You know, will Hamas disarm? Will Israel genuinely agree to permanently withdraw its troops and not invade or bomb Gaza again? Will there be some kind of stable government established, even on an interim basis in Gaza? And will there be progress made towards some kind of Palestinian state, which is ultimately the only way in which you're going to get stable peace in the Middle East? So the really tough decisions, the really tough elements of this peace plan, this 20-point plan, are yet to come. And I give Trump a lot of credit for what he's done. You know, this is Trump at his best, bullying people to fall to his will. But
I don't think saying bullying people is fair in this context.
maybe not, but
No.
I think there's a lot to that.
I don't know. I'm trying to be as fair as possible.
You know, it may not be the right word, but
Yeah.
certainly influence people. Let's put it that way.
Okay, that's fair.
Bend to his will. But what he has never been good about is follow through on details.
That is true.
People, you know, who are experts in this field are saying this may require years of painstaking attention to the situation in the Middle East in order to implement the later critical stages of this peace agreement, stages with which I very much agree, and I'm very positive about them. But and I hope it works out. But there's a lot to go here.
Yeah, I agree. There's still a lot to go, but it's a step in the right direction.
It is absolutely a step in the right direction. But as always, because of the history in the Middle East of agreements falling apart, you've got to pay painstaking attention to the details, particularly when it comes to the Middle East. The devil is always in the details, given the massive distrust on the part of both sides.
Yeah, I agree. So is Trump headed for a Nobel Peace Prize now?
Not yet.
But let's say this all works out.
I think he would have a very good case if this all works out. As I said, it's not going to work out in a matter of weeks or months.
Right.
It's going to take years. And, you know, there are also countervailing factors on the part of Trump that may deter the Nobel Committee from awarding him the prize. You know, you've got to be a peacemaker, a genuine peacemaker to get this prize. And, you know, his blowing up these boats in the Caribbean just on his own say-so, you know, that's hardly the hallmark of a peacemaker. His use of the military against his own American people is hardly the mark of a peacemaker. Nonetheless, while those things will count on the other side of the ledger, if this all comes to pass, and we do have genuine, stable, lasting peace in the Middle East, I think that Trump would have a case. I'm not predicting it one way or another. I think he would have a case. Frankly, I was quite surprised when Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. I didn't think he had done enough, frankly, to win the Nobel Peace Prize. In fact, I was called shortly thereafter, and I was asked, I forget who it was, to do commentary. And I said, what do you want me to comment on? And they said, Barack Obama's Nobel Peace Prize. And I said, come on, that's got to be a joke, right? That can't be real.
Right. I was going to bring up the fact that, Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was also pretty ruthless with drone attacks.
Exactly.
Similar to Trump in Venezuela. I guess Obama's were in the Middle East. But, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some red flags with Trump that you're like, you're going to give the Peace Prize to this guy, but they gave it to Obama, who also had some...
But not in the same way. Not in the same way.
I don't know. Some of those drone reports from his administration were pretty bad.
But he wasn't using the military against his own people in addition to that.
That is true. Yeah. All right, well...
And he wasn't engaged in this incredibly cruel, inhumane roundup of so-called undocumented immigrants.
Yeah, but
and
he
putting
was...
them in inhumane circumstances and conditions. That counts. That's part of being a peacemaker.
I agree.
So there's a lot of blots on the ledger as well. But you heard me say, I think he would have a case.
I did.
But you have to weigh the pros and the cons.
Yeah.
And I also, you heard me say, I was a supporter of Obama's, but I did not believe he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right. Yeah, there's still so much to go with this.
So much to go.
Peace deal. I mean, I think it's a great step in... It's a great first step in a positive direction. We'll see what happens.
Right, and I would emphasize the two things you accurately said. One great, but one first step, not anywhere near the final step.
Agreed.
And, you got to be wary of what goes on in the Middle East. Remember the last time I was in the Middle East, people would tell me, you're in the Middle East, nothing is ever as it seems.
Ooh, that sounds spooky, sort of.
It was a little spooky, yeah.
Ooh. Okay, you ready for our next topic?
I'm always ready.
In relation to Trump and troops in American streets, a federal judge has blocked Trump's deployment of National Guard troops in Illinois, while Oregon still waits for a ruling on its own case.
Yeah, it looks like the panel in the Oregon case has 2 judges out of 3 appointed by Trump, and they seem skeptical of the prohibition of Trump using the National Guard in Oregon. But that's only a preliminary panel. It's likely to go to a en banc ruling, which would include 10 judges and the chief judge from the Ninth Circuit, which leans slightly on the liberal side. It used to be a very liberal circuit. Now it's more balanced between liberal and conservative judges. But clearly, quite a few judges have expressed grave doubts about whether there is any legal authority, absence of genuine insurrection, absence an uncontrolled riot like the Los Angeles riot of 1992, and given the opposition of local officials who insist we don't need the National Guard. We have the situation well in hand. Given all of those circumstances, I'm not surprised that most of the judges who've looked at this said there isn't a basis in law for Trump to be deploying National Guard troops under these circumstances. Trump has also threatened, have you seen this, Sam, to invoke the Insurrection Act.
Yeah, I heard that today.
Which is not designed for ordinary policing. It's designed to put down rebellion, like the Whiskey Rebellion, or, of course, the rebellion of the Confederate States. It's not designed for routine policing or for an uncontrolled riot situation that the local officials cannot deal with. It would be a tremendous abuse of the original intent and the plain meaning of the Insurrection Act. In fact, after the Insurrection Act, after it was already in place, the Congress of the United States made it quite clear that the purpose was not for routine policing. In 1878, they passed the Posse Comitatus Act, right? Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Yes. It simply says the military cannot be used for domestic policing.
And there's a reason for that, because that's sketchy as hell. The military on the streets, the Trump administration likes to talk about security and crime. It's an illusion of security. It's not real security. It's temporary. It's a Band-Aid solution. And there's dangers involved when you have military and regular citizens out on the streets together. There's a reason why smart people in the past said, hey, maybe using the military for crime and policing is a bad idea. There's a reason for that.
Yes, and conservatives supposedly are faithful, right, to the intent of the framers, to the traditions of our country. And one of the things that the framers were most fearful about was a standing army. They almost didn't even authorize the government to set up a standing army. That was very, very controversial. That's why they passed the Second Amendment, by the way. Not to give individuals the right to keep and bear arms, but to have a well-regulated militia of citizens as an alternative to standing armies. Because they looked at the history of the Western world, and they saw how standing armies were used by tyrants to control the liberties and freedoms of the American people. And that's another reason why they had the Posse Comitatus Act. And if you read the deliberations of the act, if you read the Constitutional Convention, you'll see how traditionally Americans were very, very worried about the misuse of the military by an executive with an authoritarian bent.
And, this is just anecdotal, personal information, but, we live in the D.C. area. I spent a good amount of time in D.C. The National Guard's around. I don't feel, doesn't feel right. I'm sorry. It feels, maybe, you're less likely to get pickpocketed, your car broken into, but it's this other level of odd danger when you're seeing these grown men, military men in military garb walking around with assault rifles. Like, it's this great illusion of safety, and it puts,
as you say, at best it's temporary,
right? But like I'm saying,
and all the causes of crime are still there,
right? But I'm saying even
temporarily,
even while they're there, I don't really feel better. I feel, maybe I feel less afraid of somebody coming up and smashing a Hennessy bottle over my head or something, petty random crime. But it has its own air of, I don't know what the word is.
I've been to authoritarian countries. I've been to over 50 countries, some of them quite authoritarian. I'm not going to name names, but a lot of those countries have troops with automatic weapons routinely patrolling the cities. And I have to say it had made me profoundly uncomfortable to be in that kind of presence.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels uncomfortable. I don't feel safer. I don't feel more at ease. I certainly don't feel more free. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And look, we're all seeing the videos coming out of Portland and Chicago. We know the Trump administration is lying. This is not some sort of riot, insurrection activities that's happening, right? They're just lying. We know that. We saw, I don't know if you saw the video of Christy Nome on the roof of a ICE facility in Portland, and she looked down and there was like a dozen people sort of
there,
people.
yeah,
Just, like,
I know.
Like,
and
they're
you need
lying
the
about
National
this,
Guard
guys.
to stop that.
They're lying about this. Let's not get that twisted at the end of the day. Do you agree?
I agree. And combine this with what Hegseth has said. Did he say one word about training the military for crowd control?
No.
Did he say one word about training the military for police operations?
No.
No. What did he say would be the sole purpose of the military?
Break things and kill people.
Yes. So you want to take the military that is going to be solely trained and incentivized to break things and kill people, and in violation of American tradition, use them for policing and crowd control activities in our cities, even when the local officials vehemently oppose it.
All right. Well,
can you grab my drink?
Yeah. The other issue is, will they even listen to these judges? That's
a good question
too.
That's been an open question of the Trump administration.
Right.
The extent to which they're going to obey.
Obey.
We've already seen a lot of judges being very angry that they've tried to evade, delay, obstruct.
Right.
Even if maybe not overtly denying the decisions, in effect, they have done so. And that's very, very frightening because we know the Congress isn't going to do anything.
They're not even there.
Not even there. And they're afraid to be there. You know why?
Why?
Come on, Epstein.
Oh, right.
They now have the votes, but they won't swear in this new elected official. How undemocratic can you be? He said, it's just a pro forma session that everyone's here. But they swore in 2 Republicans during a pro forma session. That's, again, you need another word. Hypocrisy isn't good enough to define it.
Do you want to hear what just happened in the Giants game?
Yes.
Scatterboo just scored.
Wow.
20-17 Giants.
At the half?
A minute and 19 left in the second. If you don't know, he's a big Giants fan.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the Yankees are not out of the playoffs, though.
Don't even get me started on the Yankees. One of the most pathetic performances I've ever seen.
Well, hopefully they'll fire their manager now, at least.
I've been saying this for years, have I not, Sam? Years. They need to fire Boone. They'll never win the World Series with Boone. He is the worst strategic manager I've ever seen, and one of the worst at preparing his team for big games.
Interesting. All right, you ready for our next topic, Ted?
I'm always ready.
New York Attorney General Letitia James, one of Trump's fiercest foes, has been indicted on federal mortgage fraud charges.
Yeah, this is, again, I can't come up with a new word. But what was Trump civilly convicted of, Sam, in New York?
I don't remember.
Massive financial fraud on financial documents, including taking his apartment that's between 10,000 and 11,000 square feet and valuing it at 30,000 square feet. And it was massive across all kinds of financial instruments. And now basically he's saying on one document, she lied about her primary residence. And moreover, Trump said all of this financial fraud that, I've been civilly found liable up to doesn't matter because there's not a victim here. I haven't, defrauded any other persons. I'm not sure that's true. But is there a victim even being charged in the Letitia James case?
No.
No. And what happened to the original, not some lunatic Democrat, but the original U.S. attorney?
Fired?
Yes, because he said there's no case here. I'm not going to charge. So number one, you fire the prosecutor, the experienced prosecutor, the qualified prosecutor. You put in your hand-picked loyalist for the sole purpose of indicting James Comey and Letitia James. Do you know who this hand-picked loyalist is, Sam?
I don't remember her. It's a woman, right? I don't remember her name.
An insurance lawyer.
Is it the woman? And
yes.
Is it the Eastern? No, that's Comey. Eastern Virginia.
She's also indicted.
Oh, she's also
by the same insurance lawyer.
Right.
What's our prosecutional experience?
None.
Put in solely for the purpose of these indictments. And what did Trump say about these indictments? Do it. They're guilty as sin. Totally breaching what should be the watertight separation of the political arm of the government from the Department of Justice. Is the Attorney General Trump's lawyer?
No.
No, Attorney General is the people's lawyer. Attorney General swears an oath to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump. He has his own lawyer. He has his White House counsel, who is the White House lawyer. I wrote about this a lot in my book, 13 Cracks, Repairing American Democracy After Trump, about the need to really have a solid wall between the White House and the DOJ, and Trump has just obliterated that wall, in a way no other president has. He continually talks about the weaponization under Biden, the indictment. Number one, he was indicted in New York by a local prosecutor, not by Biden or a Biden appointee, right?
Right.
He was indicted in Georgia by a local prosecutor, not by Biden or a Biden appointee. On the federal case, he was indicted by a special prosecutor, specifically appointed to be independent of Biden's Department of Justice. What Trump has done is totally different from anything we saw under Biden. I predict neither one of these indictments will stick. First of all, I think there's a very strong case to be made that these are not real indictments, that they're politically motivated. Trump's his own worst enemy on this. It's his own claims. You got to indict these people. They're guilty. That shows political prosecution, and it inevitably taints the jury pool, right?
Right.
You have the President of the United States in advance of any trial saying they're guilty. There's no court in the nation where you can insulate yourself from that. No change of venue would make any difference. Secondly, there is a lot of evidence that this prosecutor was illegally appointed. How did Trump get out of the stealing of classified information case?
Presidential immunity?
No.
No.
This one, the Trump judge, Aileen Cannon, said Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, was appointed illegally, even though there is a long history going all the way back to the administration of Ulysses S. Grant in the 1870s of the appointment of special prosecutors. And, it's perfectly legal. And so she goes way out on a limb to disqualify this prosecutor. In the case of the Trump prosecutor, there is a very strong case that she was illegally appointed. There's a 120-day window for an appointment without Senate confirmations. It's passed. And the exceptions would be if they appoint someone with Senate confirmation. Was she ever confirmed by the Senate?
No.
Or someone who at least for 90 days held a Senate-confirmed position within the Department of Justice. Had she held that?
No.
No. So there's a very strong case. Not only that this is an inevitably tainted, politically driven prosecution, but that he illegally put in this prosecutor just for the purpose of carrying out his revenge. So I do not believe these prosecutions will stick.
Trump was crying about, political persecution and witch hunts for years. It's becoming more and more clear that everything Trump accuses the other side of is actually just a self-admission of something he has done, is doing, or will do in the future.
He is the master of projection, isn't he?
Yeah. Dad, Marjorie Taylor Greene is actually blasting GOP leaders over their handling of health care, calling on Speaker Johnson to drag the House back into session.
Quite astounding.
Quite.
She is Ms. MAGA, about as far right, as extreme as it gets. Remember, she's the Jewish space lasers woman who thinks, Jews are bombarding the earth with space lasers. But here's the thing.
What?
The fact that she's such a kook.
Right.
Means she doesn't necessarily go along with anyone, right?
True.
She follows her own muse, even if it means taking on Donald Trump. She doesn't care. Doesn't matter. She has her own following, her own backing in this QAnon conspiracy theorist movement, right? That is not at all dependent on Donald Trump. She doesn't have to worry about Trump like more run-of-the-mill Republicans. And remarkably, as much as I almost never agree with her, I completely agree with her on this one. It would be a disaster to not open the government and shoring up the Affordable Care Act. Authorities in the field say that unless the subsidies are restored, that premiums under the Affordable Care Act could double for millions of recipients. And even if it doesn't double, it could price out anywhere from 10 to 20 million people from getting health insurance. It would be a public health catastrophe, not to mention extreme cruelty to those persons who would find they have to make a choice. And we talked about this before, between having health insurance and feeding their families or paying their utility bills, keeping a roof over their heads. And then combine this with what RFK Jr. is doing to destroy American public health based on total quack science. Every prior, or virtually, maybe every living prior Surgeon General, including the Surgeon General in Donald Trump's first term, have come out publicly and denouncing RFK Jr. as a menace to public health, as have other bipartisan former health officials, as has every major medical health scientific organization in the country. So it's not just one thing, between undermining the Affordable Care Act and what RFK Jr. is doing in undermining vaccines, medicines, information about health, research, development of mRNA vaccines. We are potentially looking at a public health catastrophe in the United States, absent absent a pandemic, a self-induced public health catastrophe by the administration.
Not good.
Not good. Very scary. And as I said, just don't take my word for it. Virtually every authority in the field agrees with this. And by the way, 62% of the American people in a recent poll disapprove of RFK.
Yeah, he stinks.
He's just awful. The only ones who even narrowly approve of him are diehard Republicans. He is down in the gutter among Democrats and critically independents.
Good. Dad, Trump was hit with a rare public rebuke from Republicans, slamming his, quote, abuses of power in a humiliating attack from inside his own party. Can you tell us more about this, Dad? I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah. There have been a number now of Republicans who have come out because they are very worried, about, and I already mentioned, former Republican officials blasting the administration's health policies, and now you have even some sitting officials expressing real concern about Trump's use of the military and the National Guard, saying he's going too far and that this could be a serious abuse of presidential power. We're beginning to see some cracks even among Republicans and their usual lockstep support for Donald Trump.
Is this including Marjorie Taylor Greene, or this is something separate?
Yes, she's among them, yes.
So she's among this rebuke.
Yes.
Okay. I still don't think they're ever going to really
No, I don't either, but that's why I called it cracks. Not a breakdown of the base.
Nice. Okay, you ready to get to some questions?
I'm always ready.
All right, before we do that, some housekeeping stuff. Remember, our new format starts next week. So starting next week, you will see the show posted as videos. Make sure you like them. Make sure you watch them in their full. Make sure you share them. It'll be great. And remember, Thursday evenings is our members-only stream. So you got to become a member today if you'd like to join those member-only live streams. But 98% of our content will be on YouTube for free. So if you can't afford a membership, we'll still be here for you. Right, Dad?
Right. And I think there are some in our chat who are willing to help those who can't afford a membership. I'm not sure how that would work.
Well, people gift memberships. That's one way they do that.
Yes, people do gift memberships.
I don't know if there's a specific way to give a certain person a membership, but...
Yeah. But maybe there are smart people in our chat. Hopefully they can figure that out. Remember, you're talking $5 a month. As I said, you can barely buy a pack of gum for that.
Right.
Can you grab my drink?
Yes. While you're at it, why don't you like this stream if you haven't already liked it? Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Turn on the notification bell so you know when our videos are up.
Thank you.
Here's his drink.
Oh, I need it.
You need it?
Yeah.
Are you thirsty?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready, though.
Our first question is a $50 donation from George Politis.
Wow, that's a big help.
George has been donating majorly, so thank you to George.
A patron.
A patron saint of the Allan Lichtman YouTube channel. He's like a Medici, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just great. Thank you so much.
I can't reach the... Okay. Their question is, do you think this ceasefire will be successful between these two people with big egos like Trump and Netanyahu?
I hope so, but I'm skeptical. But I'm willing to give it a chance. I don't want to rule it out just because I don't like Trump and don't like Netanyahu. I'm not out for revenge like Trump is. When Trump does something good, I'm willing to give him credit, and I'm willing to hope it works out.
Question from member James Lagruta. Your thoughts on the 20-point Gaza plan? Is this a major foreign policy success? P.S. Go Giants.
All right. It certainly has the potential to be a major foreign policy success, but not yet. It's still much too preliminary. But if we move on to the more critical phases to establish a genuine peace and a place for the Palestinians to be safe and have self-determination, then indeed it would be a major foreign policy success. And as I said, although there's a lot of negatives on his ledger, he would at least have a case for a Nobel Peace Prize. But it's too early to say. But certainly it has that potential.
I think this is another person. Will peace in the Middle East give Republicans key 11? That's the same question.
Could well
right?
be. Not yet. It's too early. But, you know, the election's over 3 years away. So we got plenty of time to make that judgment, don't we, Sam?
Plenty of time.
You know I don't like to make hypothetical judgments.
Right. No hypotheticals. $10 donation from Diego Yanes Holtz. They say, do you think Trump wants a civil war as a strategy to stay in power after 28? And the rhetoric of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and Pete Hegseth, etc., sure seems like it.
The rhetoric is absolutely frightening. I agree with you. It shows a really strong authoritarian bent, and we've talked about this a lot, that the two hallmarks of authoritarianism are control over information, education, culture. And we see Trump clamping down on schools, colleges, university, the Smithsonian, other cultural icons. That's one side of it. And now we see his assuming control over the military for domestic purposes, not to fight foreign wars. So I do think that there is some real potential based on what they say and what they do for Trump to really clamp down on dissent. Remember we talked about NSPM 7, which basically criminalizes any kind of views, not just criticism of the government like the Sedition Act. It's much worse. It criminalizes ideas, any ideas that Trump can find repugnant. So I'm not sure they want a civil war, but I do think they want authoritarian control over the American people.
One thing I forgot to add during the housekeeping, actually on my channel at Sam Lichtman, I posted a new video today. If you haven't seen that yet, go to my channel, check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments.
I want to say this is about they're lying to you about immigration.
Right.
It was brilliant, insightful, persuasive.
Really?
And I don't just say that
Wow.
out of nothing. You know, I've been grading students for 52 years.
Wow.
And this was as good as anything I could have done myself, maybe
What?
better.
Really?
Yes, it was amazing. You've got to follow it. It's the best thing I've seen on the immigration issue by anyone.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Dad.
Sure.
Our next question is a $10 donation from Bubba Blazers. They say, Trump's eyes lit up when he heard Zelensky say that he can remain president as long as Ukraine is at war. I believe Trump will start a war. What country is in Donald's crosshairs?
Well, I'm not ready to say that Trump is going to start a war. You know, what do you call him, Sam? Taco?
Yeah.
I don't think he has the fortitude to actually start a war. He goes after the helpless and the vulnerable. Blow up a ship that can't defend itself in the Caribbean, right?
Right.
Tackle suspected undocumented immigrants with overwhelming force from ICE. Send troops into the cities, always going after the marginal and the vulnerable. So I don't believe that he is going to start a war, but it's not impossible. Venezuela would be one possibility. He already engaged in acts of war against Iran. He may do so again. Talks about seizing Greenland. Oh, I think that's way far-fetched. Criticisms of Cuba. So if he were to start a war, I think it would be not against China, which could blow up the world, but against, a vulnerable contender like Venezuela.
I think what's more likely to happen is he'll continue putting military in the streets across American cities and declare some sort of martial law, insurrection type thing.
Couldn't agree more. As I said,
attack another country.
His real aim is authoritarian control, not war
Right.
or civil war.
Right. This is from In Your Face New Yorker. They say, as a fellow Jew, I promise this will be my last Israel-related question. You say that Israel, pre-Netanyahu, has been a, quote, moral beacon. Could you please explain what you mean by that? I'm not trying to get in a huge debate. I'm just trying to understand what you mean. Thanks.
Jews have been persecuted for thousands of years, literally, or at least a couple of thousand years, throughout history. If wells run dry, Jews must have sabotaged them. If a child goes missing, Jews must be seizing the child for one of their satanic blood rituals. If there is a plague, it must have been caused by the Jews. More recently, we've seen the horrific late 19th century, early 20th century pogroms in Russia and in Eastern Europe. And, of course, all of this culminated in arguably the worst genocide in human history, the extermination, deliberate, industrial, of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust under the Nazis. And Israel was a moral beacon in providing a refuge, a place for Jews for the first time to be safe. And in an area of the world marked by authoritarian, repressive governments, you can name them all around the region, Israel established a genuine democracy, a democratic republic mirrored on that of the United States, with liberties and freedom for its peoples, and has been an advocate for liberty and freedom around the world. I understand all the conflicts with the Palestinians and Arab states. I understand that. There's fault on both sides. But all of these elements that I laid out were part of Israel becoming a moral beacon that Netanyahu has just trashed.
I guess the issue is no one's really arguing that Israelis domestically, Israelis are free. There's a democratic system, but they have explicitly not given that to the Palestinian people.
That is an issue. I agree.
So I guess that's where maybe people have.
You can argue here, but I think there's enough of a case, and Israel has been well regarded enough to say it has been in many important ways a moral beacon. No country is perfect. The United States has engaged in some pretty horrific depredations of other peoples as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost impossible to find any nation state in the world in the last 200, ever, basically, that's some sort of perfect
Let's not
moral.
forget, Israel's this, you got to remember, it's this little tiny country, of just several million people, less than 10 million, surrounded by a vastly larger, vastly more populous group of very hostile nations that have pledged its extinction.
Yeah, I just hesitate to call it a moral beacon because, I mean, since the 40s, the Israeli government has done some pretty fucked up stuff, specifically to the Palestinian people.
Understood, but I think I made the case that there is so much more than that.
I don't think you did.
Okay.
In my opinion.
All right.
You ready for the next question?
Totally wrong.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. You ready for the next question?
The United States has, in its wars of choice, killed vastly more people than Israel has.
I agree.
Until Netanyahu.
I don't know if I, especially in terms of foreign policy.
By your argument, no nation would be a moral beacon. That's involved, maybe some little tiny nation, that's isolated.
Yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of it's impossible to grade these. That's why I don't know if I
understand. Israel has always been on a knife edge for its survival. As I said, surrounded by enemies that outnumber it enormously.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, that's a fact, yes.
And so
So I don't think that necessarily excuses like the subjugation of like millions of Palestinians.
I'm not excusing it. I'm explaining it.
I agree with you. I guess maybe my issue is I don't know if I'd use the word moral beacon for any nation state that exists in the world.
That would be fair.
I don't know.
The contrast between Israel pre-Netanyahu and under Netanyahu could not be greater. I mean, his gratuitous attacks, his blockades, his starvation, his going after hospitals, refugee camps, far, far outweighs anything Israel had done previously.
Gotcha. Thank you to Mr. Dobbs for 5 gifted memberships. Do you think that an air traffic controller walkout will again be the turning point to end the shutdown? Do you think Dems will be able to hold the line and get the ACA subsidies protected? Also, I think Ohm 7 is a good nickname for the memorandum 7.
I don't know. Om is a kind of a positive,
Right, it's kind
a
of-
meditative chant.
That is true.
I like Orwellian 7 better.
Yeah.
That was something your brilliant mom suggested. You're better able to talk about air traffic than I am.
I think it's going to be incredibly hard to hold the line if air traffic controllers start walking out. That seems to be a universal issue that no American wants to deal with in terms of travel being delayed, travel being canceled, long waits at the airport. That's a quick way to get the American people really pissed off. I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't have a good prediction for what's going to happen with this shutdown. It seems sort of completely in limbo right now, and it could go a number of different ways, but I don't know what you think.
I do think you're right. I think that's probably the greatest pressure point. You shut down air traffic, and the public demand to end the shutdown will reach an enormous crescendo.
Yeah.
And I do think we're already seeing great interruptions, are we not?
From what I've heard, there's already been interruptions, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I feel for these air traffic controllers. They have a really hard job. They're asked to work really long, stressful hours. And to be honest, I mean, it doesn't just during a shutdown. They don't get a lot of support from the federal government. The FAA supports them, but they're overworked. There's not enough of them.
And Trump eliminated the Air Traffic Safety Advisory Board, which was one of the important supports for the system. It's now gone.
Right.
Look, they're fooling us.
Who is?
Who do you think? Trump and his allies. They're fooling us into trying to make us believe, and most Americans aren't buying this, that somehow you could run a buzzsaw, a hacksaw, a chainsaw through the federal government and there are no consequences. And that is sheerest nonsense.
Right. It could also backfire to the point where, if Trump starts firing air traffic controllers or threatens not to pay them, it could backfire on Republicans and they might have to cave. I really don't know how this is all going to end.
Yeah, he's been blustering about not paying furloughed workers. I don't think the air traffic controllers are the furloughed workers, but who knows, when it comes to Trump, what he's going to do about paying people.
They're not furloughed. They have to work, but I don't know if they're getting paid right now.
I don't think they're getting paid.
I don't know how they could be getting paid. There's no money.
I don't think they're
money.
getting paid, but he seemed to indicate that only furloughed workers wouldn't get back pay. But, with Trump,
right.
It's not that precise, is it?
Who knows?
Who knows? And I'm sure every federal worker, whether furloughed or not, is worried about getting back pay.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to some of my old colleagues at the FAA, and they said, they're just not working, and they're frustrated. They don't want to not work and fear possibly not getting paid. It's a nightmare.
It is an absolute nightmare, self-induced by this administration. All they'd have to do is go along with what 70% of the American people agree, and that is the maintaining of these critical Affordable Care Act subsidies. They keep claiming, we're going to reform the Affordable Care Act. We've got something better How many years have they been claiming that, Sam?
That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, for 7 years they've been claiming that. And, in the last iteration, what did Trump say? After 7 years, we have concepts of a plan.
Right.
Right. You can take that and $5 and get on the subway.
Did you see the CNN clip where Stephen Miller said that Trump had plenary authority? It cut to commercial, and then CNN didn't mention it. Is this evidence that Trump is censoring our media outlets? Did you see that clip?
I did not see that. Did you see that?
Yeah,
Sam?
it was a clip of Stephen Miller talking to some host on CNN. He talked about Trump having plenary authority, and then after he said that, he just froze. And
Really?
the CNN guy was like, "Stephen, can you hear me?" And he just stood there staring at the camera. It was a really strange moment. I don't exactly know what. I don't know if anybody knows exactly what happened.
How much time do we have?
As much as with 2 minutes, it's
my
58.
shoulder's starting to hurt, so I'll take one more question.
Okay, one
a
more
little bit
question.
of pain here.
We'll do our good friend Patrick Murray. They say, how did they find a grand jury to indict Letitia James? What evidence was even used? I didn't think it would get past a grand jury.
Do you know the old saying about a grand jury, Sam?
You can indict a ham sandwich.
Exactly. Only one side presents in a grand jury. There's no defense. So they can spin the evidence any way they want. And particularly if you have someone who's unscrupulous. I'm not saying she is, but there's certainly some suspicion here that she is on a mission, no matter what the evidence is, to indict Trump's enemies. Then who knows, the ways in which she's spun the evidence to guarantee an indictment.
Okay, quick shout outs to Andrew Beard, the Mad Hatter Forever, Joanne Roberts, and Comic Fan for your donations who didn't get on air. All right, we will be back next week with videos, so you won't miss us at all. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting, and it's completely free. I saw a couple people complaining in the chat that we're like charging for everything.
Nope.
It's the opposite, actually. We're actually providing more free content. The only content that has a paywall is the members only live.
And that's $5 a month.
But yeah, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this new format. Don't forget to like, share, watch. It'll be awesome. All right, Dad, what are your final words to the people?
I give Trump credit. I'm not one of those commentators who will not give credit when I think credit is due. I think this is a very important first step. He deserves a lot of credit for it, but it's first step, and there are many, many steps to come, and let's hope there isn't a lot of stumbles as we go forward.
All right, folks, thank you for watching. Tune in next week for our new format. See ya.
Good night. Wow, no audience.
Hold on.